Hello, everybody, and welcome to the return of the midweek madness. To kick things off, back with a bang, I got a little double toil and treble for you guys. Please welcome Anthony and a name I can't pronounce.
Mustafka.
Mustafka. I'm probably going to keep mispronouncing it, so I do apologize in advance. How you guys doing today?
Good. How are you? Yeah, we both looked into a day off, so we're actually off together. It's like a once a month occasion. So
it's about as rare as getting Bruce Wayne and Batman in the same room. So tell the audience a bit about yourselves, like who you are, where you're from, favorite color, that kind of stuff.
I'm Anthony. My favorite color is green. I'm the writer for Found, and
I'm Mustafka, the artist. My favorite color, I guess, is also green. I usually don't really say a favorite color, so I'll go with green.
Switzerland. We live in the Cleveland, Ohio area. We're right outside.
Oh,
yeah.
You're not too far from me then.
Where are you at?
I'm from Belleville, Michigan, about 20 minutes from Ann Arbor.
Yeah, okay.
Nice.
I'm literally like 2.5 hours from you.
Yeah. We've met like a handful of people that are like within a couple hour radius. We're like, this is so cool. Yeah.
Yeah, like I really feel like the Metro Detroit, like Northern Ohio area is kind of like this comics, like it's like this undiscovered comics mecca, like like there's so many comic people from like go up as high as Flint, and then you kind of get like the like kind of goes down like the Toledo area, Cleveland area, maybe goes down as far as like Columbus. Like it's something about that Great Lakes region that like there's a lot of comics people in this area.
Yeah.
Something in the water.
All that fluoride.
Yeah. Cheers.
To poisoning our bones.
I think that answered everything. I don't know what else to say really.
Yeah.
We have a comic.
What drew you to comics? What wrote you to comics in your case, Anthony? Like what kind of brought you to this medium?
I've been like obsessed with X-Men for like as far as I can remember, really. I've watched it, read it a long time. Yeah. I'd say my reading journey is like young teen and then like my adult life now. And I'd say it was strictly X-Men back then. In my teen years, I was at the library. I read a lot of Tomb Raider and Witchblade. I had
okay, you're officially my best friend.
Yeah, it was a very unique experience that I was having at that time in my life. Yeah.
I love Michael Turner's art. Rest in peace.
And then now I'd say in the last like decade, I read everything. I'd say we both kind of steer towards indie. I think that X-Men is pretty much the extent of our. There's just so much X-Men to read. It's hard to really put too much money towards the rest.
So, like, what era of X-Men do you enjoy, and then like, who are some of your favorite X-Men now?
I mean, it's really frustrating because I feel like everyone, like the X community, I think I prefer all of the ones that most people don't like.
Like who, dare say? Let's start some fires here.
Well, I know the new X-Men with Morrison is very debatable at times. I feel I love the art. I dabble all over. I read we have like a lot of the, you can't see them right now, probably on our shelf. There's a lot of the giant essential compendiums that we've been reading.
Oh, you got to have the sacred text. You got to have those.
I'd say Uncanny X-Force with Remender was one of the more like modern titles, I'd say, that really brought me back to it. I mean, I think about X-Men Red with Jean Grey a lot, like pre-Krakoan era. That was probably like the height of the pre-Krakoan for me. But I love the current modern stuff. I love all of it. It's a lot, but it's worth it.
Yeah. For me, I've always been more of a DC guy myself. But as far as the Marvel stuff, I don't know. More recently, I've been kind of getting into some Spider-Man stuff. Like I always liked Ultimate Spider-Man. Been a Daredevil fan for a long time.
That's one that we've been recently. Like, I think we need to start dipping in there. There's like Daredevil, Moon Knight. I've been really interested in a few runs.
You need to read the Frank Miller run of Daredevil.
That's what I've heard. I'm gonna write that down.
It is so good. Frank Miller run of Daredevil. The Kevin Smith era is not bad. Like some of the Joe Quesada stuff's not pretty good. But like the Frank Miller run is it's legendary.
Noted. I literally wrote it down. Just keep it a list. I mean, we read a lot of manga lately too, but I'd say we have like a stack of everything. We dabble daily. We aim to read every day, honestly. So
I mean that's really important, especially when you are making your own comic. One awkward segue later. So tell us about your comic, aka the very reason you're here in the first place.
It's called Found. It's a space fantasy series. We've kind of played around in this world for years. We created a lot of story and content here, and we tried a few different things with it. We kind of feel like we've put it through the ringer a lot ourselves without really putting it too public facing. So like it's really refreshing to finally have a campaign and be like doing what we want to do to get the story out there.
So tell us exactly about this world. You say it's sci-fi fantasy. How exactly does that shake out?
You want to take this or do you want me to?
No, you go ahead.
So we're really inspired by things like D&D and like Cowboy Bebop. But we have like we kind of feel like the things that inspire us, like that saga, X-Men. I feel like we kind of pull from a little bit of everything. I'd say we are doing our best to kind of put fantasy in space and find a unique twist to put on that isn't just like magic in space and that's all there is to it. We've kind of
a whole.
I'm sorry. No, go ahead.
It's just what you're saying. It kind of like I know exactly what you're saying. It's like I'm working on a novel myself where I'm going from that exact same premise, like a fantasy novel set in space kind of thing. We'll talk out. We'll talk after the show. Comparing notes. This hour is about you.
Space fantasy, I feel like, is like a kind of a less explored area in a way.
I agree. My approach was more inspired by like how you had like the Thor movies where it's like obviously fantasy, like a chariot, like a flying chariot, kind of stuff, and like they had weapons that were fantasy based, but had like a sci-fi underpinning to them. Like basically, I wanted to tell a story where it's like you're on a space station, but on the ground it looks like a medieval town. Right. And then you turn a corner, there's a spaceship in the square. Yeah. And then you go up there. It's like basically the on the ground stuff plays out like fantasy. And then like also a little bit, I was also kind of like like Shadowrun, where it's like a mixing of fantasy and cyberpunk. Yeah. I always really dig the idea of like you have an orc in a suit or like an elf netrunner, that kind of like very much the blending,
Yeah, we've done that a lot. It's been like a lot of fun to explore like ways to blend things and twist them up. And
so basically, a better version of the story that they tried to tell in that Netflix movie with Will Smith.
Fairy lives don't matter. They tried. An attempt was made.
Yeah,
that's true.
We have to start somewhere.
Yeah. Actually, our original idea kind of was founded on like a similar concept, and it really like expanded and changed from that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
The original concept actually started with the idea of like a tavern, but like a tavern floating in space. And we were like, people like would come and go from like that kind of a place, and that's actually where like the idea started for us. And then it sort of blossomed into a completely different, but rooted in the same concept.
There were going to be like one shots with those characters, and we liked all of the characters too much. We were like, no, they need more than one issue each. So we really,
I definitely feel like while we may have we may have had different springboards, because my springboard was like a mixture of Star Wars, Thor, and like I kind of wanted to play out fantasy tropes in space. But I feel like we're kind of like on similar tracks. But
Yeah.
I think because we're coming from different foundations, it'll just go in wildly different directions.
Yeah, and that's so cool. It feels like like a not explored enough genre. Yeah. So
I agree because like
the
thing that got me was like George Lucas kept insisting on calling Star Wars space fantasy. And if we even just stop for a second and just think about the world, Star Wars is basically just samurai space wizards.
Yeah.
The Jedi, it's essentially what they are.
Right.
And and it does play out like a fantasy novel set in space. It just, and I feel like you're right. It's a genre that it's been kind of.
But like Star Wars like almost got to like that fantasy level, but it's almost like fantasy storytelling more than it is like actually like fantasy
setting,
like visuals.
Yeah,
there was still too much of like a not too much, but there was still more of a sci-fi element to like the things that were involved with the spaceships, the lightsabers.
Yeah,
there was like still things rooted in science that was fictional that made it the science fiction, but it was like a fantasy idea. So it was like kind of like we want to take that kind of an idea and sort of go more to that fantasy side of it.
Yeah, like that's it's like instead of it is very much a fantasy novel set in space but it's very much still a sci-fi thing at its core. Versus like you have like the complete opposite where it's a sci-fi story set in a fantasy world.
Yeah.
And it's like where you got like all the fantasy visuals, but it has a lot of sci-fi underpinnings to it. And I don't know, I just thought it'd be kind of cool. Where it's like, I just love the idea of like a medieval town square, and then like you turn a corner and like there's a spaceport, and like you see these like sci-fi like fantasy inspired spaceships. But like they're still spaceships, and everyone's just batting an eye. It's like I kind of want to commission an art like that. It's just
there's a really cool. It was only 5 or 6 issues that came out under Image called Fair Lady, and the story is set in like a medieval setting that kind of has like a little bit of that D&D vibe. There's like anthro people at like times and stuff, and humans. But the whole setting and the story takes place in like when you see the map, it's giant ruins of some sort of like a metallic
like a robot. It's like a giant robot that like the entire map is like laid into where everybody lives.
Yeah.
It sounds kind of reminds me of like the Xenoblade games.
Or
the entire world is literally on the back of a giant monster.
Right.
Yeah, see, we have a lot of the same background. I can tell. I feel, You've logged as many hours. Yes.
I've warred in the Worldcraft before.
The setting.
So
sorry. Like the setting for the first 3 issues, I'd say is a great example. It's an asteroid, but people live on the inside of it. It's like a trade hub. It's called Through, but like people live on the inside of it. Is all colonized, like along the wall and everything. So we're kind of like putting a fantasy location inside the inside of an asteroid. Yeah.
I did something actually really, really similar where like basically mine takes place in our solar system, but like in the year 4000, where like Earth has been abandoned, and like. And they have like some settlements in Alpha Centauri, and in between you have like these kind of like drifter colonies, like space stations. Yes, Titan AE, I drew some from there. But like these drifter colonies, these space stations, you go in there, it's like a medieval cyberpunk kind of town where like everything's like really close together, like but it looks more like a medieval town kind of thing with like multiple levels. And I took the asteroid concept. Actually, funny thing is, there's actually a sequence in my book set on an asteroid, but it's more of like a checkpoint kind of thing, because like it's like an asteroid like right at the edge of the solar system, to where people who come in, it's like a what is it, customs kind of thing.
Yeah,
and like they have corridors. It's more of like a space prison-y kind of thing. That's kind of where my book goes slightly horror-ish. Yes, I'm sorry, I'm talking more about my book than yours, but just like
no, I mean it's refreshing to hear other people playing in the same kind of like playground. Yeah. We've just been talking to each other about it every day. So yeah.
So you guys have a campaign running.
Yes.
And here it is. And so you kind of told me about like the general setting of the story. Now tell me, is there anything you can share of the story?
Yeah, so I'd say so in these first 3 issues, this first arc.
I love the cover, by the way.
Yeah. We actually have tried to do something pretty cool with that because we think our first page references an event like that the 2 of them had just experienced, and we tried to use the cover to allude to that a little. So I hope we're curious to see how that comes out when it's actually in people's hands. But
because I mean, really, the opening to the story really is the setting of the story. It like sets the scene.
Yeah, like the first like 8 or so pages are meant to be kind of like a rush of what happened just before we're diving in with Dugan, just kind of like experiences that he's coming from and what he's been dealing with. He loses his mentor. We really like the idea of playing with like an older mentee, not just like the young teen still learning, kind of like he's an adult that's kind of like making it for himself in that way. Yeah.
Sorry, I giggle because that's kind of like another parallel to my book. Because like, do I need to call the lawyers? No, actually, you probably should call the lawyers on me. Like mine is the main character is actually the mentor. Like mine is okay. Continue your spiel. We'll talk.
Yeah, I mean, so it's about him losing his mentor and then going back to where he's from, this is like a dozen years have passed or so, and he's going back to meet up with his old friends from where he is from.
Nice.
So we're playing with both aspects of found family there, like the relationship of, master and sidekick, and your old friends that you're going back to, like going back home like that. And Dugan's kind of playing with destiny and identity, just kind of exploring what that path looks like for him, given his circumstances now. Forging his own name, so to speak. We don't want to give a little too much away. We have there's a reason it's 3 issues to introduce Dugan, we'll say, but that's the gist of what you'll be getting into at the beginning, I'd say. Yeah.
Yeah, so I love the art. Also, I see you are using Comics Wellspring, so nice. I use them for my comics. They are amazing. So what are your what kind of backer tiers you got for this? Let me kind of scroll up and let's see here. So you got let's see here. For this one, you got your digital one. Cool.
Yeah.
You always got to have that digital one. Like I know some people say like don't do digital because of piracy. My thing is like if it gets popular, it's gonna be pirated either way. So might as well at least do something. Plus, digital is really good for international backers as well.
Yeah, you're not. There's no physical production cost, and it's just kind of towards.
How many pages is your comic, by the way?
So this will be a little over 30 for this first issue. We're
okay.
32. It depends. It's we have some extra pages we're throwing in there too for, kind of explaining what's to come, and we have a little bit of
free shipping. Not bad. Like that's a pretty good deal.
Ran an Etsy shop before, and we know what shipping can be like, so we were like, let's just kind of roll this up. We don't want anyone to have to fuss with this. It's a pain. So yeah, we like the idea of knowing that you're paying what you see. Yeah.
Not bad. Yeah, I'm liking what you got here. It's definitely a bargain, I'd say. Yeah, you get a lot for your money.
Spread, a bargain, and a bit of kind of a more simple approach we'd hoped. We didn't really want to like throw everything we've seen everyone do. Yeah, it's like, and I mean, we have a lot of things we want to try out in like future campaigns. So we kind of figured let's just start with like the basics across all tiers, and then kind of play with it.
Yeah,
later
the
on.
thing that a lot of first-time creators, I'm not saying you guys are, but like the thing that a lot of first-time problem they run into is like, oh, we'll have all these add-ons. They don't even think like, oh, how are you gonna produce those things? You know, like, oh, we're gonna have a challenge coin, and like, and like, what tier is it? It's at the $50 tier. It's like,
and where are you getting that from? Yeah,
like maybe at like a $200 collector's tier, you know, maybe, or $100, but like $50,
yeah, right.
you know, yeah. But yeah, you guys seem like you guys know what you're doing, so you don't have to worry about that. Oh, this is where like having one of your people be an artist really helps, because I'm just a writer, so like so yeah, custom sketch, pretty sweet.
And
we're
then fortunate to both
found family.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
You know, that's the gist. That's the whole point of our story. So it's like we got to put a little tier out there for it too. You know, you got a little bit of everything, just like we do.
Yeah. So you got a trailer here. Let's kind of just check it out. You know, all right.
We can call it a trailer. Yeah. Enjoy.
All right.
Hello, and welcome to the campaign page for Found Dugan #1. We are the co-creators of Found. I am Anthony Mullins, the writer.
And I am the artist, Mustafa.
Found is a passion project that we've had for the last 5 years or so. We put a lot of time and effort into creating this world and the characters in it and the kind of stories that we want to tell. It's an ongoing space fantasy series that has a lot to do with identity and destiny and finding your own path. With Found Family, those influences affect you and your choices.
Found Dugan is an introduction to one of our main protagonists as he returns home after the loss of his mentor.
He's gonna reunite with a couple of his old friends and try to figure out what the path ahead looks like for him. There's a little bit of mystery about what happened to his mentor, and he would like to do something about it, but we'll see if he can. So with as long as we've been developing Found, we're excited about everything about it. But we just wanted to point out a few cool things that you can expect to see in Found Dugan #1. A mysterious battle on top of a spaceship.
A trade hub on an asteroid.
A mithril hammer with mystical properties. A fun pink girl that does transmutation magic.
An Orkimbo mechanic.
Bar fights. And so much more. Is this cool? Is this working like I want it to?
Sure.
And so we hope you have a great time checking out our campaign. We'll enjoy all of our rewards, including a special variant in print by our dear friend Sebastian Cariz. And we look forward to you joining the Found family. Okay, we were laughing this whole time because we literally... Ever since we launched, we've gotten some feedback that it like feels scripted, and it's just so funny to us because we did that so last minute and none of it was scripted. And every time we watch it now, we're like, we see why people think that, but there's probably about an hour of extra footage that he has of just us.
I gotta say, that trailer is adorable.
We're glad it worked in some way. Yeah.
I mean, at the very least, it gets your attention, so at least does its job.
Right.
Thank you.
That was the plan.
We're glad it worked. Yeah. Oh, geez. That was so silly for us. I mean, every time someone's like, well, maybe just like not sound so scripted next time, we're like, okay, I'll try, because all of that was just in the moment, and we were just kind of saying it over and over because I kept laughing the whole time, so we were just forced to repeat it different ways. And thank God you could edit to cut out.
How about instead of a script, you try not laughing as much, so that way you're not forced to repeat it, and then your performance goes down. I think that's actually what you need to do.
Well, either that or the opposite, and we needed to stop trying to choke each other.
Yeah, it really helped when we stopped trying to get it in one take.
Hey, whatever you two do in the privacy of your own room is no business of mine.
could support us elsewhere to find out about that. Not really.
Hey, hey, this is a comic stream. You're here to pimp your Kickstarter, not your OnlyFans.
Jeez.
It's
I hope
okay.
I'm not watching right now.
Oh, so you're 72% of the goal. Congratulations. Let me try to see. Your rate's 180, yeah, not pretty good. 2,500. So I'm assuming this is mostly for like a full color print run.
Yeah, it's the production with everything, and just with our situation, we work a lot of gig jobs. We both work a lot of things and make a lot of money however we can, and it's fully flexible to free up the time to finish it. So there's a little bit of that rolled into it, but we've also kind of done our best to make sure we're keeping it all minimal. It was more important to us to make sure that it just succeeds. That's kind of why we our estimated delivery is for February right now, because we figured that's a good chunk of months to really let us put the time that it deserves to be put in. Yeah.
How many copies were you planning on printing off? Just curious.
When we did our math, I forget what we used, but we kind of did things flexibly enough to know that we can kind of bounce around depending. So
all right, yeah.
We figured our math will improve per campaign as well, you know. It's
I know what you're saying, because like I'm doing a campaign myself. It's funded, and like, but like I got like a set number of comics I want to print, so it's like I know exactly what you're going. We can talk like exact numbers out after the stream if you want, you know.
We know we have plans on needing them down the road regardless, so we kind of figured let's kind of aim up a little, and you know, things go better, we have a little extra to go towards that later.
Have you done any comic conventions?
For fun as audience people, but no. So yeah, this will be that's kind of part of our thing, is like, let's start collecting our supplies and getting ready. That's the dream. We kind of hope to have a little bit more prepared to take.
So a few that I recommend, there's Space, a small press alternative comics expo down in Columbus. That's a pretty good one. I've been there once. Obviously I'm in Michigan, so like some of them might be a little bit too far for you, but like Monroe Pop Fest, which is in Monroe, Michigan, which is like pretty close to the Ohio border. That's
videos on YouTube about that when you went there.
Yeah, like that one's a pretty good one. You know, if you want some more kind of in the Metro Detroit area, those might be a bit of a drive for you, but like, yeah, those are pretty good. But like Space might be a good one for you.
Yeah, in Columbus, of course. Yeah. That's perfect.
And I'm sure, you know, you're in Cleveland. I'm sure there's plenty in Cleveland you can go to.
We go to Wizard World as often as we can out here.
Yeah, you should sell pretty well there, honestly. I'm sure the table's probably expensive.
That's why we're like, we'll wait till we have a little bit more, you know, to put on the table until we pay for one.
Yeah, like smaller conventions, usually the table will run you between 50 to 100. Small to medium size, that goes to about 150. And then something like a Wizard World will probably cost you between 300 or 400, because like I'm imagining Wizard World is about the same size as Motor City Comic Con, which is like the biggest Comic Con in Michigan. And I know Motor City is like 300 to 400 for a table. And I imagine Wizard World is probably the same. You know, like I kind of have like a tier classification system for Comic Cons.
Right.
Just, I mean, honestly, there's events you can get in for $10 or $20 a table. Yeah. You know, there's smaller ones. Just start small and work your way up. That's the best thing I can say.
That's a good call.
We appreciate all insight right now. It's been great, like with our learning and just learning everything right now. It's very exciting.
Really the biggest thing, yeah. It just, this whole thing feels like such a cool like learning experience to be like breaking into.
Yeah, now you definitely came in at a good time. I'd say Indie's blowing up, but it's not quite saturated yet. I'd say.
Right.
I think one of the things that's holding a lot of people back is like the kind of work that goes into creating a decent comic, which you guys clearly have done. So you kind of pass that muster.
We're quality junkies, and it's pretty great that we get to be checks and balances for each other just live. We always have that double checking of everything. So
yeah, you'd be like, "Oh, this sucks," do it again.
Yeah, we could be very forward about a lot of it too. That's very helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it always helps. 2-man teams. It's
Oh, yeah.
always great.
I come up with a lot of wild ideas, so he's a miracle for me to have here a lot. Yeah.
So, is this meant to be a limited series? Is it meant to be ongoing? Like, what's kind of your plans for this?
It should be ongoing.
That's the dream.
We have. It was so hard to even pinpoint the start of the story at first because we had so many ideas that spanned such a period of storytelling that we would be able to do that needed to kind of finally find that spot, which ended up being Dugan's story.
Yeah. I'd say there's 3 main protagonists with kind of like a revolving supporting cast to that, and we know what those stories we want to tell in the found universe are, and we've kind of shaped things to where we have like markers where, depending on how things are going, either we can actually tell a complete finished story sooner or continue it on if the people want it, and hopefully the people want it because we would love to tell all of the stories that can be told in this universe. I mean,
we could say that we have three main overarching plots that are getting worked into each as like
nice
main checkpoints, but ongoing since we don't know.
So Dugan would be one of our 3 main protagonists. It just seemed better to choose one and not all 3 on your first issue and kind of have to condense that into like 3 smaller stories. We just kind of wanted to be able to pick the right one to start with. But it's around number 3 or 4, depending on how we lay this out. We'll be able to start introducing the other 2. But his friends here are supporting cast that are relevant in other stories outside of this with him as well. They're found family, we're all everywhere and they all influence each other different ways. So we'll be playing with that a lot. Yeah.
So like what brought you kind of to the indie comic space? Like what kind of brought you to kind of making this comic in the first place?
Wanting to tell the kind of stories that we wanted to see more. There's a lot of representation that needs to happen more. That needs to happen in new, refreshing ways. It's kind of not the same cliche or stereotypical storylines happening here with what we're gonna be representing. And when it comes to like the fantasy and sci-fi aspect, those are both things that we both like to the same degree. We like the same kind of stuff, so it's really fun for us to kind of find our own way to shape that to our own unique way, kind of create a little bit of a new take on that genre more. So just kind of like the drive to, I'd say we're both really passionate about the stories that we want to represent.
And that really does clearly show on the page. Like, whenever someone asks, like, what advice you give to like new creators, the first thing I say is write with passion, write well, because if you don't have passion for what you're doing, it will show up on the page. And your passion very much shows up on the page.
I would definitely say due to like the found family aspect too. I mean, a lot of the things that we'll be touching on are a really unique blend of like our experiences with something compared to a part of our personal found family's experiences with something similar, and kind of shedding a light on the angles that don't get enough spotlight in these stories, I think.
Could you elaborate on that portion? Like what angles precisely do you believe are not really being talked about as much?
So I mean, when it comes to like the found family aspect, it kind of can easily feel like when you're reading those stories, it's kind of like a member of the week type thing, and it can kind of have that like gotcha game feel, just kind of like collecting all of your family. We have things where each of these characters connect in their own unique kind of relationship and kind of influence each other's story moving forward. So, I mean, even just with Dugan here, being with the mentor and like the sidekick is its own unique relationship. But then we're kind of taking him away from that by losing Darren and then putting him back with like his old friends.
I think a lot of like the found family concepts that come up in a lot of stories thus far have a lot to do with how that found family functions like all together, almost as like a team, without exploring so much the individual interactions and stuff too.
Yeah.
I feel like it's an opportunity for us to kind of show how those relationships are unique between people and how those things like affect each other's development and how, about finding your people.
I'd say to layer on top of that, when I was speaking to representation too before, we have a lot of characters that will be like in these next few issues, like the first handful really, that we feel like kind of represent a queer community in a way that we want to. It's not the same old romance story. They're not just like doing the stereotypical thing you think they'll be doing when they show up. They're not just kind of like playing their part and then pushed to the background.
Their queerness is their entire character trait.
Yeah, we wanted to make like queer characters that were foremost impactful and involved, that actually have something pivotal in the story as opposed to just like being about their little side romance or I mean, we don't really want to give too much of it away. It was pretty tricky to choose Dugan as our first because he is like one of the only straight characters, but at least we have the himbo orc there to kind of balance things out. We have some fun things in store for him, so
yeah, it's something that I've always been telling me. Like I'm not a fan of like how like the big two kind of treat it. Like it's like they turn established characters into something they're not as a representation, and whereas like I keep saying like create new characters, get people to fall in love with them.
Yeah.
And that's kind of basically what you're doing,
Yeah, we'd like to help.
I'm really supportive of what you're doing.
We want to kind of pave the space a little bit more like that, where it's like people can see that there can be more kinds of stories with these characters and that they can matter if you just do it. I mean, it's like, it's what you touched on with like the big two and everything is a great example of what we're trying not to do. The exact opposite.
Yeah. And I mean, honestly, I feel like all it does is it creates division between longtime fans and newer fans, or just like tourists, or just people who comment on Twitter. And it just creates needless division when like it's been proven in the past that you can create a queer POC character and with a proper like Miles Morales is a perfect example. Like it kind of took a little while, but like people are finally starting to come around to like Miles Morales and Spider-Man. For me, it was a movie, but like or other characters, just treat them really well, write them really well, respect what came before. You don't try to replace characters, and you get people to like them. And I really support what you're doing. You're like you said, you're carving out a space, and you're showing that this stuff can be done.
Thank you. Yeah, Thanks. That's great to hear. Thank you. Trying to make us blush.
Hopefully a big one.
I'd say too, for anyone watching, there's like a great example, I'd say, is we put a lot of effort into making the Found Universe's Gay Jesus. So if you want to see by that, we'll be getting there in a few issues. So
help me, Gay Jesus!
Yeah, so hurry up and come back us so we can show you what we mean.
Praise the Lord.
I can't not call him that. Every time I think about him,
I mean, it's blasphemy, but I don't really care.
I'm blasphemous existing, so it is what it is.
You dirty sinner, you. So yeah, we were kind of like skating over some of the stuff earlier, but like, what are some issues you kind of have with like comics nowadays that may have kind of drove you a little bit to create this comic? If you're whatever you're comfortable sharing.
I mean, honestly, it's kind of just nice to see more people little by little learning that comic books is not synonymous with superheroes.
Yeah.
That there's other stories to tell than just the superhero stories. Some people, if you tell them like I read comics, they're like, yeah, I like some superhero movies and stuff. And I'm like, it's not the same thing.
Exactly.
It's
yeah, like I'm all for expanding the universe. Like my thing is like, you want to do more stories, but like don't eliminate the cape stuff. It's just a genre within a larger sphere. That's
yeah, exactly.
It's like the hard part about the big two, that like that's obviously like the the ultimate. They've reached that paramount of,
I mean, the thing you got to realize is this problem is is very much an American centric problem, because like you go to Japan, there's not that problem. You go to France, like the French comics are. I mean, French comics blows away literally everything else. Like, oh my, like stuff like Blueberry or whatnot. Like, oh wow, like the art, the storytelling. Oh, French comics. I know they have a name for it, but like I can't pronounce it / can't remember it. But like, yeah,
I'd say
like yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, you go ahead.
I'd say like a good example. I don't think I finished answering the question before, actually, about like the comics I kind of read in my life and stuff. The thing that brought me back to reading comics, brought us back to reading comics, actually. I'd say it was like a dozen years ago from the library. We binge read Y the Last Man, and that kind of changed.
Oh my God, I love that.
It's probably my favorite thing, mostly because too it changed my perspective on what comics could be. I think that it was really reading that back then that
I love it
where we should,
because it's I feel like it's a very realistic take on what would happen in that situation.
Yeah,
like
it's beautifully done too.
Like for example, not all women become lickers. I'm trying to keep it at least somewhat PG, and like yeah, I just feel like the whole food becomes a source of commodity. The only bad thing is FX really butchered that show. Like, oh my God.
It was those last few episodes. I feel like we were the only people watching those last few episodes, but it really like became the comic in those last few, I felt. And it was like, just too late, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But
I just wish they would have made it in like 2013 and Shia LaBeouf would be Yorick, because he would have been like Transformers era Shia LaBeouf would have been so perfect for Yorick.
I think too that I agree. I think the comic was like boundary pushing for its time, and then it kind of just like it with time it needed an upheaval, but it almost felt like the show was like almost too much of an upheaval, but I felt like it was like bringing it back, like bringing it to current times.
Yeah.
And I felt like their intent was positive.
Yeah.
They did
the casting was pretty fantastic, though.
The casting was
Agent 355, Ashley Robbins is a phenomenal actress. So.
Oh, you mean like my favorite character?
I mean, that was one of the best comic book casting in anything ever.
Actually, no. My favorite character's got to be Allison Mann. I just loved her character.
Yeah.
My favorite scene, like one of my favorite scenes, is like a flashback her to college, and she's arguing with like her college girlfriend, and she's like, "Oh, I'm graduating. That means I can't be a lesbian anymore." Like that has to be such a real thing for like a lot of like lesbians, where it's like, oh, I'm graduating. Like, oh, this is just a phase. It's like. It's just
we read it all over again.
We've read it. Part of what was so cool about that too is Brian K. Vaughan is like one of our like huge inspirations too with Y the Last Man and now Saga as well, of course, and pretty much everything that he's written. But he's actually from the area. He's like from Rocky River, which is the city next to ours.
Yeah, it's like you're. Any day you might be right there.
Right. Paper Girls takes place in Stony Stream.
Which is Rocky
so
River.
So it's like I'm afraid to talk crap about Y the Last Man in my local comic store because Brian K. Vaughan could literally be the next shelf over.
Right.
Because the comic book store, our local one that we go to, was the one that he went to.
Yeah, they tell us his dad picks up his comics there like once a month, and I was like, wait, when? When is this? Let me calendar. I just want to say hi. But speaking of casting, I would say the Paper Girls cast. Those girls were phenomenal choices as well. I don't know if you've watched that yet by chance. I only had the.
Did they get? Did the season 1? Did they get to the prison arc?
No, for Paper Girls.
No, in Y the Last Man.
Oh, in Y the Last Man. No.
That is probably one of my favorite sections of Y the Last Man. I really like that.
Was with the.
Loosely interpreted. I'm trying to think when they're all like at like the picnic together and everything, and they like make. See, I feel like because of the show now, I can't remember which happened in the comic and the show, so I got to reread the comic again. Oh well.
Yeah, I really like that art because like it's kind of the first time that Yorick gets to talk to like actual women outside of the main feud. He kind of gets like first kind of talk like, and he talks like to that one woman. Like there's okay, so, like I'm gonna be vulgar here, but my favorite line is, "Just because I saw a woman doesn't mean I'm gonna eat pussy." Like, I just love that line.
You need to just start with like go to like the 6th episode and just watch the last few, and you'll get like that little bit of what you want from the comic right in there.
One of the things is like one of the characters, you kind of get more of like their origin story that we didn't see coming at first.
Veronica,
kind of like this has to
Victoria.
fit. This has to be who this is.
Victoria, the girlfriend, right? Which
Marion Ireland played her, and she like it was her alone is a great interpretation of a character through, and it's like
they pretty much assassinated her character at the very end.
Yeah,
it feels like the people that like were like fans of the comic probably fell off watching it because it's like that's not that character, but at the end I was like, she's turned into that character.
You know, like
interesting to add it as like an origin story from the beginning instead.
Like literally she was gonna break up with him in that phone call, and it's like it really like that ending, while it's bittersweet, like I just the stuff with Allison. No, I mean, but now Allison, but like the girlfriend, like the fact she was gonna break up with him, and like there's another like, oh, you didn't want the man, but you wanted the last man. Like there are so many good lines in that one.
Right?
And he's like, I love you so effing much, and slams the door. Like, oh my god, that scene gets me. And then it goes. Sorry, I just the memories of that book are flooding in my head.
I know. They're literally right here. I feel like we should just turn this into a reading party right now. We could just start.
I got mine from the library way back when, so I don't have them. But like, yeah.
Yeah, so Brian K. Vaughan is a huge inspiration just to me about like the kinds of things that you can do with comics and storytelling, and just kind of pushing myself to tell more unique stories through.
And what I really like about Why the Last Man is it just tells the story it wants to tell, but it doesn't really care about length. It's 32 issues long. It's not trying to be like a 12-issue maxi series. It just does what it needs to do. It tells the story it wants to do, and then it ends.
Yeah.
Like, it's not trying to be anything. Like, it just goes on for as long as it needs to. And I think I really like that about the story, where it's long, but like, it's not trying to be a 500-episode epic Dragon Ball Z story, but at the same time, they're not compressing themselves to like a 12-issue. It's like this is gonna go on for as long as it needs to, and that's really what it feels like. There's not really any stretching of the story. There's not really much filler. It's just they tell the story they want to tell.
I feel like that's kind of a lot of what we're like aiming for with Found 2. Actually,
exactly. Yeah.
It's like we
great
know
inspiration.
We have that goal. We have like we can see the goalposts. You know, we can see the goal at,
like the milestone markers.
Line. I'm not a sports ball person. We can see the end, but we also have like so many ideas that we can fill the space to get to the end as much as we want to.
It's like the characters involved, their stories can. It would be disappointing to us to cut their stories short to have a completed story with as far as we would get. So we think characters deserve to have their story told more. I mean, it's crazy to us because we originally, a few of these first pages had those two other characters on it, and now we're like, okay, it'll be like a year maybe till people see them. So we're just sitting on them, just like so antsy to finally show and tell. Yeah.
All right, where's the erase button? Let's just cut them out of the frame. Yeah. So we're kind of getting on to the 50-minute mark. So what do you want people like? Kind of what do you want people to know about your comic?
That about the comic, or about like the campaign and about us. What do you?
Either or. This is kind of like we're getting down to essential information here.
We want to tell you this awesome story. We think there's a lot of awesome things here to tell. There's a lot of depth to dig into. We are incredibly passionate about it. We've worked with it for years. We put a lot of care into it.
I think the characters are just a lot of fun to us. I think we've thought a lot about their interactions, and I think that we've kind of let them reveal themselves to us. And I think in doing that, we've also found them incredibly relatable ourselves. And I think that that's be like fun for people reading it too. Is I think once they get to know the characters in this beginning, they'll actually see like, I totally get where they're coming from.
Like I said, they were going to be one-shot characters, and we liked them too much. So we hope everyone feels that same way when they read it. I say in terms of this campaign, I mean, it's really important to us to just succeed and be able to move forward. But it's time for us. It feels like we're finally here, and it's time to do this the right way. So yeah.
So you're 72% of the way there with 9 days to go. You're in a great position, first and foremost. You're heading into the last week, which is really important. So if anyone sees this, please go back to the book. It looks awesome. Please, we need to show everyone that like new stories can be told. I like these guys; they're pretty cool. And then if people like the comic, where can they find you? Like any social media contacts you want to link?
I'm Antoinito. I can type it in here. That's my name on everything. Oh, that's the private chat, huh? Should I put it in the comments? Is that a thing?
Yeah, put it in the comments. So if you want to check out the campaign, here's a link to the Kickstarter. Just put it in the description for people to grab it, and then link me to the private chat, or you can put it in the comments. That's fine too.
It doesn't look like. Right. Okay, yeah, we'll put it in the comments. I'm Antoinito, and he's Mustafka everywhere. That's basically.
All right, I got you. I'm gonna put there we go. And then that's the guy's Twitter. Feel free to give this cool cat a follow. All right. And anything else you want to say to people? Like any last words?
Come join the Found Fam, guys.
Come join the Found Fam.
We'd love to have you. Yeah.
All right. So I think we'll put a cap on this. So this has been Nick Gibson from the Phoenix Press. Thank you, Anthony, and person whose name I can't pronounce. Thank you for coming on the show. As remember, I can only show you the door. You're the one that has to walk through it.